Okay, so hi, everybody. It looks like we must have a quorum.
Yes,
We do.
Okay, excellent. Then I call the meeting of the Housing and Community Development Committee of June 21st, 2022 to order. We have a quorum. And we do our housekeeping motion. So would someone make a motion to suspend the rules to allow us to participate remotely?
Yes, I move suspension of the rules to allow this committee to participate remotely.
second.
Okay, and I guess we need a little quick roll call.
Sure. Councilmember Newsma,
Aye.
Councilmember Reed,
Aye.
Chair Revelle,
Aye.
Joanne Salome,
Aye.
Kathy Feingold,
Aye.
Monica Bobo.
Aye.
Excellent. So we've suspended the rules, and now I need a quick motion to approve the meeting minutes from May 17th. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Okay, and a roll call.
Councilmember Newsma,
Jonathan?
Aye. Sorry.
Councilmember Reed,
Aye.
Chair Revelle,
Aye.
and this is approval of minutes. Councilmember Burns
Aye.
and Hugo Rodriguez.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes.
Okay, great. Thank you. So next on our agenda is public comment. Do we have people signed up?
Yes, we sure do. We currently have 35 attendees. We have about 56 people that provided public comment. We provided a summary of all the written comment at the end of the packet for your review. We do have about 23 people that have signed up for a phone or video comment during the meeting. Some of them, there wasn't enough information to understand whether they will join or not. So I will be calling their name just in case. If there's anybody that wanted to speak that provided a written comment but was planning to speak, I invite you to raise your hand with the feature at the bottom of your screen. And we should be able to let you speak. But at this time, I have about 5 or 6 people who have not shared which topic they want to speak about. So I think we may want to proceed with that first, and then we can decide how to split the rest of the comments.
Okay. And given that it sounds like there are quite a few people who want to speak, if people could be succinct and to the point, so we can get to our agenda, that'd be great.
Okay, so if you give me a second, I just need to get to the list. Okay, so I'm gonna call first on Nancy Mendoza. And I will unmute you so you can speak.
Hi, good afternoon or good evening because it's 7 p.m.
Yep,
How
hello.
are you? I am Nancy Mendoza and I work at Family Focus in Evanston. I'm a family advocacy worker there. So I have been there for about 6.5 years, and I am here today before the ARPA funding for Family Focus. A couple of things that I wanted to touch base on was I work in the building and we also do remote work right now, but I have seen the condition our building is in, and it's deteriorating little by little. And we desperately need this funding. For one, I have a couple of things. The air conditioner, especially in my office, blows a fuse every time it turns on. Especially when it's really, really hot out, I need the AC to go on. The bathrooms on all the floors, a lot of them are not functionable. We have horrible plumbing. Some of them don't have doors in the stalls, especially the handicap one. So on the first floor, there's about 4 bathrooms, only 2 of them work. And on the second floor, I believe maybe 1 or 2 at the most will work. I don't know about the third floor, but I believe there's some that are not working as well. We also have tenants in the building, so we need workable bathrooms. The ceiling in the FAC room where I work from, you can tell that there was a leak prior. So the ceiling is damaged on top. I do have asthma, so that concerns me. The heater and boiler in the winter, sometimes it goes off. So we're stuck without heat. It's not regulated throughout the whole building. So some sections in the building are really extremely hot and some of them are not. The elevators keep breaking down. We need those for senior citizens and handicap participants that we may have. That's just a bit of what's going on in the building. I'm sure there's a lot more, but I can't stress this enough. We definitely need this funding to help the community because they use our building. I do parenting classes and parent coaching there. So we have people coming into our facility once we open, when everything goes back to normal. So I would love to see some improvement in our building if that's possible, because I love what I do and I wouldn't change it for nothing in the world, even though our building is falling apart. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, I have a few people that signed up to speak, but I cannot find them in the attendees. So I'm just going to say their name. If you're here and want to speak, please raise your hand. There is Carissa Roach, Nakwana Bishop, and Claudia Evans. I'm going to let Debbie Reynolds speak now.
Hi, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, my name is Debbie Reynolds and I work for the Family Focus Middle School, and I'm working with the children there. And our classroom, oh my goodness, we need a classroom. The fountains in the classroom don't work. We have one toilet in the classroom that the children don't want to use. We don't have water where the kids can have, where they're able to drink water. So we go across the way to Fleetwood to get water for the kids. As you all know, today was 103 or above. So that was the issue that we have. The kids want to come to Family Focus, and others want to come to Family Focus and share the wonderful things that's going on at Family Focus. But if you don't have things working, how often can you come and be there for the community? And it's a wonderful place. The place just needs some sprucing up, and we're in dire need of this money, and we'll greatly appreciate it, not just for Family Focus members, but for the children also and the community that's around there. They want to be a great part of Family Focus. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Carol Singleton.
Hello, can y'all hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, how y'all doing this evening?
We're okay.
I had a whole speech, but I done got nervous now. But my name is Carol Singleton. I've been a part of Family Focus. Oh my gosh, I don't even know how long, since I was like a teenage mom. So that started like over on Church Street. So I've been a part of Family Focus. Right now, I'm part of Family Focus for the grandparents group that we have every week. But I done seen a lot of different stuff with Family Focus. I wish that some of the things that they used to do would come back too, like helping people, being part of a team, like teenagers, being teen moms. That's the way I was when I started at Family Focus. I was a teenage mom, and I had a older mom who helped me through my teenage years of being a teenage mom. So I don't know what else. But like I said, I've been a part of Family Focus a long time, and I done seen the building go down. I do a lot of field trips for them too, for Miss Joanne. I've been a school bus driver for like 22 years, so I've been around a long time in Evanston. But yeah, we need the funding to help out, because my granddaughter was going to Family Focus too. I mean, my kids went to Family Focus growing up, after school program. They enjoyed it. They loved it. It was a nice place for them to go, to be off the streets, keep them out of trouble. You know, so This funding will help out Family Focus a whole lot. And I'm gonna continue to go to be a part of Family Focus as a grandparent, because I have 11 grandkids. So I want them to all know that Family Focus is a good place to be and be a part of.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Next, we have Helen Hari.
Helen?
Ms. Hari?
Yeah, I muted myself. I didn't realize I was going to be called.
Oh,
Sorry about that.
that's okay.
So my name is Helen Hari, and I started my internship of Family Focus in 2010. And I retired from Family Focus in 2019, and I went back to work with them again contractually. So it's been a part of my life for a long time. And I work with Nancy Mendoza in the advocacy program. I started out actually one of the first workers when we got the advocacy program. And Nancy came 6 years ago. I trained her. She's been an amazing worker. She was before me. And I'm not going to keep taking up any more time, but most of the thing that Nancy talked about is something that I also wrote with her, the problems that we had. We've always had this problem. Nancy and I, and also our supervisor, all have asthma. And I never was diagnosed with asthma before working at Family Focus. Each one of us take medication for asthma because of the leak in the ceiling and probably a possible mold. So the building is a great treasure to the community. I've seen so many things happen, and I'm pretty sure everyone from Evanston in this group tonight know what Family Focus is all about and the program that is provided for the community. So thank you again for having us tonight. And I wish that you guys would consider Family Focus. It's a great, great program. We do a lot for the program, for the family that comes to Family Focus, for everybody who lives around that neighborhood, and the kids especially really needs to have this building fixed up so they could continue to come here and get the services that they need so they're not on the streets. Thank you, and thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Next, we have Beth Jacobs.
Hi, I wrote you a long piece and thank you for your attention. I won't go through the whole thing, but I've been working at Family Focus for 16 years, doing writing programs, and I agree with what everyone is saying and that I know you're aware of. It's an incredible center for the community. It houses so many different kinds of programs, and I know the writing is just one thing, but the building is literally falling down on the kids' heads. And there are aspects of it that are from uncomfortable to dangerous. But despite that, what goes on in that building is so rich and loving and wonderful and embracing. Am I just on voice? You're not saying anything?
Just voice.
Okay, because I wanted to show you the books that we've written, but you can look for them on Amazon. And this community, despite all the hardship, has pulled together creatively and written 2 beautiful books, Grandparents Rock and Family Focus Faces 2020 with Poetry. And just the heart and the wisdom and the humor and the resilience of this community are seen in these books. And I know this is just one little slice of what goes on, but it's the slice I know about. So I want to tell you, but multiply it times 1,000. There's so much creativity and development and impact on people's lives, so much support. And I'm just going to say that for me, the 16 years I've been at Family Focus have changed me profoundly as a person. I'm so thankful to be there. I said this in my writing, but I really did not know what a community was until I spent time there and was engaged with Family Focus. It's an amazing place, and I really hope that you will throw every bit of support you can to it. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. So Chair Revelle, the next groups of public comment have provided an agenda item. So I don't know if you want to keep going or if you want to hold off.
So what they want to talk about a different item?
No, there's a group that's one-stop shop, and that was all written comment. And then there's a group that's family focus. And I wasn't sure if you want to keep going or if you want to do that once we start talking about the project.
Right. Well, we could shift gears a minute and go hear from the folks about the one-stop shop, and then we can consider that item on our agenda and then move on to family focus.
Yeah, we have no one that will speak. They all provided written comment. I do have 2 people that signed up to speak that provided a different one. Provided Marsha Robinson was looking to speak around the 5th Ward School, and we have Carlos B. Sutton that's looking to talk about the Census Region 8092.
Whoa.
So
yeah. Well,
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm inclined to say if folks want to speak to items that aren't on our agenda, we'll take them at the very end. Because those 2 people that you just mentioned, those items are not on our agenda.
No, they're not.
Yeah, okay. Well, let's move to our first item of new business, old business, which is the funding request for the Evanston one-stop shop. And I will be chairing this discussion, but I need to say that I'm basically recusing myself from any vote on the issue, since I'm a member of the Evanston community ECD anyway, that is a part of the project.
I will be recusing myself for the same reason.
Okay. And I believe Kathy has the same problem. Kathy, you're going to recuse yourself as well, right? Yes. Okay. All right. So so we did have a presentation at our meeting last month, and since then,
and Chair, it's probably appropriate for me to quickly say, apologize for cutting you off, but I have recused my membership with Evanston Development Co-op, allowing me to discuss and vote on this matter today. I no longer have any financial with Evanston Development Cooperative.
Okay, great. That's good to know. Yeah, okay. So we all had an opportunity to look at the evaluation criteria and submit some comments. And I don't know, staff, do you want to share what the results of that?
Yes. So we do have Bob Dean, Robbie Marcus, and Hank Love from CNT, EDC, and Elevate that are here to answer your question, as well as Garrett Pratt. And then if you want to just go, yeah, you need to, yeah, thank you. Sorry. So we have a slide with some additional information that was provided by the team at CNT, Elevate, and EDC, and they will be speaking to it and providing some additional information before we go into an update around the scoring that was provided by the committee members that did not recuse themselves.
Okay, okay. So now we're going to hear from our guests with additional information.
Exactly. And Bob, I don't know if you were going to be the one presenting.
Yeah, I'll speak first, and then Robbie and Hank will join in response to further questions. Does that work?
Yep.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, great. Well, thank you for making time for us again. Again, my name is Bob Dean. I'm the CEO at CNT, and I'm joined here by Robbie Marcus with EDC, as well as Hank Love with Elevate. We presented last time, so I'm not going to go through that whole thing again, but just remind everyone the concept of a one-stop shop is what we're presenting here, which is meant to make it easier to access housing rehab services for low and moderate income Evanston residents for climate resilience, energy efficiency, and healthy homes. So we do mean this to both achieve the climate and the equity goals of the city. So I wanted to take a minute to just respond to questions that had come up since the last, in the last meeting or since then. So first on community support, we included a couple of support letters in the material, and also you saw a couple of comments come in. We also, I'll just note, presented at the 5th Ward meeting on May 26th to a positive reception, which we thought was important. That would be one of the main geographic target area. The main thing I wanted to talk about tonight was just to respond to questions about preservation of housing affordability. And I'm glad this came up because this was a part of the purpose of this program, but something that we didn't describe completely last time we talked. But it is very important, and it is the intent. And I think this is mostly a concern in our view for rental housing. So the intent here would be to place restrictions on landlords who participate in this program, and that, so exactly what those restrictions are, we need to work out, but it could be anything from keeping rents from being raised for a certain number of years, to attaching it to a fair market rent calculation that does periodically, to having a certain percentage of units be affordable to people under Evanston's median income. So we laid out these ideas initially in the program design for this that we did a year ago, but didn't come up with a firm recommendation for what the answer would be and how we would exactly do that. So our proposal is to spend the first month or two, if this is approved, working with an advisory group that we propose to put together to figure out exactly what those restrictions would be that we would place on landlords. I think the idea here is not to make it so onerous that no one would want to participate, but also preserve affordability, which is a critical part of what we have always been trying to do here. So, so we think that's a good point. We're glad that came up, and we will address that fully once we get into program design. We also wanted to just talk a little bit about funding leverage. We've seen a lot of increased interest federally in these kind of ideas, and funding sources for this purpose becoming available. There was just one that I saw this weekend that Hank from Elevate is looking into to see if it's relevance for this. So we definitely see the one-stop shop and the city's commitment of resources to it as a pilot. We know that the funding initially is being requested 100% from the city, but we do think the idea here is to layer in additional sources of funding and financing on top of that. But we think having some sort of a pilot in place makes Evanston a more attractive applicant for those kinds of federal resources, because you can point to a system that's working that that can be leveraged and have more resources added in. So, so those were the main pieces. I would also just mention, in terms of location, for this, we are talking to Family Focus, and that may end up being the right place for like the in-office version of the one-stop shop, where services would be largely, where intake would largely occur. But that's still an ongoing conversation. That's not a firm commitment on anyone's part yet. So I'm sure I missed some things there, but just wanted to go through the main responses. I would welcome Hank or Robbie to either step in now and add to that, or if you want to wait till there's a couple questions out there, probably be an opportunity to respond. So with that, I think we can just open this up for others to ask questions.
Great, thank you. So committee members, any questions for our applicants? Can we go back to the screen where I can see everybody in case people raise their hands?
Now it's there.
Thanks. Great. Three of us have to be mousy quiet, so it's up to the rest of you to ask the questions.
Yeah, I don't have any questions. I think it's an interesting concept and certainly needed with climate change coming at us fast.
Yeah.
Wouldn't the 100% request be contrary to the 30% that the city is allowed to fund on any of the projects that we approve from the Arpa funds? That's a question to staff.
I can certainly try to address that. That is a the 25 and now this 30% are numbers that we came up with as a sort of guide. I think what makes this different is it is a pilot, and the intent is to have a great deal of other sources of funding rolling out. So I do not believe it's a problem to fund a pilot in its entirety, because ultimately the whole reason of doing that is to put together a program longer term that will enable us to access resources that otherwise we wouldn't, as Bob said. I think the federal government especially is looking for sort of demonstration projects, who's got their stuff together so that they can actually implement some of these things. And I think that's really critical. And I think we've also found Robbie Marcus especially has been working and getting all kinds of other not traditional funders interested in new ways of addressing housing issues. So I think that it's actually critical that we do something in market, because I think otherwise it's, they used to use the term shovel ready whenever you were going to do a capital program, but you really have to be shovel ready for this type of program too, and building the capacity and the ability to do it, I think, is critical.
If I may, on this issue of the total amount of funding, we are intending to leverage every available source of funding into this program that currently exists. So there are utility programs, there are financing programs that are currently available and will become available as the state comes up with its own green bank over the coming years. So I think there's going to be ample opportunity to leverage in additional funds for improvements to these households over time. But it is critical to get it started without an assumption of an exact amount.
Thank you very much for your responses. I also am very interested in seeing how the restrictions on for-profit landlords will be placed, because affordability to the low to moderate income landlords or residents, whoever applies for the program, it's paramount for the funds that this committee is assigning to different projects. So if you could elaborate a little bit more on that, that will be very helpful, Mr. Dean, or anyone else in your group.
Sure. I mean, I'll actually pitch this to Hank, because Elevate does this kind of work all the time, energy efficiency programs that preserve affordability. So Hank, do you want to mention some things that work in other places?
Yeah, so it is possible to get some guarantee on affordability. There are some very stringent ways to do that through affordability covenants that are deed restrictions, which are allowable under law, but landlords may be more hesitant to agree to something like that. It's all dependent on the terms and the timeline that you may place on it. In places like Madison, where we're running a program, we're getting voluntary contracts with the landlords that for the life of the measures that have been subsidized, that they will guarantee affordability. It all comes down to enforcement and monitoring to make sure that that actually stays in place. If you don't have something as legally binding as a deed restriction. So there's a lot of different tools, but we do, as Bob said, we need to spend some time making sure we understand what the landlords will agree to. If in the case where some landlords are basically already assuming that they will keep their units affordable, it's a lot lower hurdle for them. But it gets more complicated in the face of those that see opportunity in gentrification. So we'll need to do some work to ensure we have the proper tools available for those landlords to make a firm commitment to keeping their units affordable if we're going to provide them significant subsidy.
I just wanted to add a little bit. One of the things that I think is important, because we've always done this with our, for example, when we've done home projects, we try to make sure, or other subsidized especially those have very long-term affordability, relatively speaking. Those are 15 years. But I think it's important that we talk to the landlords and actually also understand what's happening with property taxes and things like that, because over restricting can be more harmful than helpful. And so that's one of the things that we found in our NSP program. If we had a 2-flat, for example, and we restricted both at 50% of the area median, that property would not cash flow. It was not self-sustaining, and that would be something we would not want to do. Now, if it's part of a larger portfolio, then we may have some flexibility. So I think we will have to really do some work on how to best do that. And, you know, there are some cases, for example, I think that we can also look at expanding. One of the ways we can help control and make sure that the affordability is maintained is to do something like, say, landlords taking housing choice voucher holders or something like that can be qualified. And also we could offer to have them added to the centralized wait list for inclusionary housing units to actually make better use of that. So I think there are a lot of different ways we want to look at. And there may be cases where there will be different restrictions on different properties based on the amount of investment they get. That could be a very typical thing. Again, with a program like home, if it's a small investment, there's a short period of affordability. You know, I think we have to look at all those things. Over restricting can be as bad as not restricting, because it can actually hurt the landlords. And I think, Ugo, that's probably something that you're aware of, because you know the problems of keeping a property cash flow, getting enough cash flow to keep it working.
Thank you.
Any other questions, committee members? So Marion, do you want to show the evaluation from those of us who were eligible to submit to be calculated, I guess?
You're muted, Marianne.
Thank you. Can you see my screen with the one-stop shop scoring?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So just as a reminder, the scoring includes only the committee members that did not recuse themselves. So we got really good scoring on this project. The average total score was 4.73 out of 5 points. The total score was 142 points out of 150. Feasibility, capacity, and budget all came out at 4.6, ROI of 5 out of 5. And then addressing inequities and inequality and community support of 4.8. We received 4 letters from local organization supporting the project. I think it's worth noting that in the stage the project is in, we wouldn't necessarily see a lot of resident or community support because the outreach and engagement phase has not started yet. But we did see during the Partners for Places workshop a lot of support from the participants that were participating, and those people that joined the workshop were specifically targeted low-income homeowners and landlords located specifically in the 5th Ward. So specifically potential target for this program and people that could benefit from this program. There was a few comments. I think most of them have been mentioned during the questions already. The concern of the 100% of participation funding, the landlord and preserving affordability, as well as there was a suggestion of potentially having contractors to be contractors of color. first. And I think that EDC may be able to speak to that and how they're working with local contractors. And then that was it for the comments, but overall a really good scoring for this project.
Great, thank you. Committee members, any comments or thoughts or questions about the scoring? Are we just ready for somebody to make a motion?
I don't know if we want, I don't know if we wanted EDC to speak to their hiring practices for local contractors, maybe to kind of bring some.
Yep, okay.
Yeah, I can speak to that briefly. So as a worker-owned cooperative, the way we're set up is local contractors are eligible to be members of our co-op. So a lot of sort of the capacity building on the workforce development and racial equity side has been kind of going on before this initiative even kind of came on our plates. And so, yeah, a majority of our cooperatives worker owners are local contractors of color. A significant number of them even went to ETHS. They've been here their whole lives, from concrete to HVAC to carpentry to electric, and they're also well connected across the local trades. And so, yes, we would want to ensure that the racial equity and prioritizing contractors of color as well as women-owned firms would be integral to the workforce development piece. It's not just who's receiving the upgrades, it's who's doing the upgrades.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Burns, you have a question or a comment?
Just a quick comment to bring it home even more. And I know Robbie said it, persons of color. If you go to the job site, one of Evanston Development Co-op's job sites, they're working on an ADU right now. And I'm sure if you reached out to Robbie, he'd be happy to take people on a tour separate from this next statement I'm about to make. I'm sure he'd be happy to take anybody on a tour of the accessory dwelling unit they're building on Jackson here in the 5th Ward. But when you go there, you know, there's Black and brown people working just to bring it on home. And that is not always the case when you drive around Evanston and the area and look at job sites. You don't see that type of diversity, strong diversity in the workforce, in the construction field. So I'm really proud of what Evanston Development Cooperative have done, making a commitment in their bylaws to hiring local. And it's the real deal. It's not just talk.
Great, thank you. So, Ugo, go ahead.
Sorry, I forget to unmute myself. I have a question that might not be, that it's probably not even related to this topic, but I think it's relevant in the sense that, you know, it's how much money do we have available to give out under this program in general, or how much money we have left, and how many other organizations we have not seen that are going to come with requests for funds from these funds. So we're approving without seeing what else is behind. And what if another organization comes with more urgent or emergency needs of any kind, and we run out of money because we are giving it away without seeing it? I don't know if that is logistically possible, or maybe not, because we have not received applications from everybody who's going to apply. I don't know that, but it'd be good to kind of have an overall picture of everything that we're doing with this money.
Right. Yeah.
At this point, I don't know if I might be out of place with my question.
Yeah, no, that's certainly been a concern expressed by the council and others all along. So Sarah, do you want to give a quick overview of the ARPA picture?
Sure. We have been, the projects that we are pursuing and bringing forward to both this committee, Economic Development Committee, and the Social Services Committee are all projects that were discussed and brought forward to council, starting with our first. These are priorities that we've identified from all the outreach and other types of work that had been done early on when we found out that we were getting ARPA. So we are actually, if we approve these two requests tonight, we will have a little over $500,000 left in one bucket, which is the disparately impacted communities bucket. But we've also said all along that there is some fluidity between buckets, so that if we think something comes up that we would fit under this and not under another, we can certainly make that case. But we also have $3.5 million reserved for participatory budgeting. And that is a process that we're just starting to work on. Councilmember Nusma is involved in that, as are Councilmember Reed and Councilmember Burns. And that is an important way to get input from our broader community on very specific projects that gives us quite a bit of flexibility. And there's also, I don't remember just off the top of my head, but the economic development funding is, which was a little over 10 million, has allocated less than half of that so far. So, you know, again, we always said there will be some fluidity, or there could be, because we really don't know what other sources of funding still may be coming out and how we may be able to access those.
Yep, Kathy.
Thank you. Is there a time limit in which you have to spend the ARPA funds?
Yes, there is. We have to obligate everything, which is a contractual agreement, not just a, hey, we're going to spend it on this, by the December 31st, 2024, and all funds must be expended by December 31st, 2026. Now, I also want to remind people that there are some other sources that are being considered for very important projects that we're talking about, not necessarily at this committee right now, but about needs in the city. And that includes the 5/5 TIF, which is going to be creating increment and helping fund things specifically in the geography of that 5/5 TIF. And also the West Evanston TIF is, I think, generating over $1 million a year right now. I think Councilmember Burns, you probably know those numbers better than I. So we're really looking at how to balance a number of other sources to address needs as well.
Thank you very much. Makes sense. And I didn't mean to say that the two causes that we have in front of us are not worthy of that money or anything like that, but just wanted to make sure that we have an idea of where things are.
Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely. It's a huge balancing act all the time.
Yeah. Councilmember Burns, a question or comment?
Yeah, another comment. I was just going to say, Sarah, if you want to send around the I think we were calling it the ARPA plan that council approved, which provides some, clear steps that organizations that are interested in applying for ARPA funds would need to go through to request funds. I know that's something that we all push for, along with the scoring rubric. So there was a very clear-cut process, so organizations, would know how to request funds and what the process would look like. Early on, we did not have that in place, and I was, also concerned just because I felt like we were fast tracking fast tracking the approval of people who got a jump on making ARPA requests before other organizations were aware of that it was an opportunity. And I think since we've adopted the plan, we've adopted the scoring rubric, and have tried to get that out as best we can. It's time for people to apply. So I would say let's send that around, and even as a committee, we can, feel free to send that out to people in your own network, because we are Sarah is actively taking in requests and reviewing them, meeting with people to help answer any questions and walk them through those steps.
Yeah, great, thank you. So back to our one-stop shop. Any further comments or questions? Or could we have a motion to?
I have one mention to say. It seems like we have one person that wanted to comment on the one-stop shop, and that wasn't quite clear. So I was wondering if we could let them speak before the vote happens.
Sure, yeah, that's fine.
We can maybe just confirm that there's no other questions. Okay, Ms. Payton, I am unmuting you.
Hi, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right, thank you for letting me speak. So I wanted to comment and ask a few questions, and hopefully they can answer since it didn't seem like others had much to say. So the rent freeze that you discussed, and the rents below fair market rent, what is the price you're discussing for that? And how many people do you potentially have signed up for this program? And how much will each person get? So let's say that I'm a landlord that is trying to sign up for the program. You said you're doing solar, heating, etc. Is there a cap? And how much is it, like per unit size, a 2-flat or a 6-unit building? How much services would I be looking to get? And you also say you want to rent out possibly a space at Family Focus. Will you be paying rent, considering that Family Focus is asking for $3 million tonight? Will you be paying rent at this space, or is this donated? And then also, you say that you're focusing on 80-92 and 80-96, so people can be fair and equitable. And I think I heard you say at another meeting that you were, that the tenant could sign up. Is that correct or not correct? And if that's so, how is a tenant going to be approved without the landlord's permission? So I want to say this as well. I don't know if you want me to make my other comments later. That's why I put a general comment or no comment, because I have several comments, not just on this, but I think these are important things that people need to answer. And it looks like everyone's jumping around and you all are just throwing out money, millions of dollars. It's not even 50,000 or 100, it's like millions now. And who do you decide that gets this? You said it's 50 families or 50 units or 50, this is what you say in the thing about 50. So who gets this, and what is the application process? But it seems like there's a lot of unanswered questions, and the committee's getting ready to vote, and you're not even asking relevant questions about how this is going to move forward. So I just think that you need to answer. I think you need to have some more question and answer before you start approving things.
Okay.
And I do have other comments that I would like you to call on me later. Thank you.
Noted.
Okay, so our applicants, would you like to take a crack at those questions?
Sure, of course. I have some responses. I want to make sure I'm going back through these. As we laid out in the proposal to the city, this is a pilot. We are trying to test out a variety of different approaches to upgrading the buildings. And so we have, based on previous programs that Elevate has implemented in various other areas, in the Midwest, we look at different kind of packages of upgrades to buildings at varying levels, trying to understand what if a building needs a light touch and just a few direct install upgrades versus deep upgrades to major equipment or structural issues, or if we're looking to try and install something like solar on a building. So we've laid out a variety of different potential packages and investments in the units. And based on different unit sizes, building sizes, we're looking to serve a variety of ownership types and also, targeting different neighborhoods. So we're really looking to try and test out these different approaches in different areas of the city in the target areas to see what works and learn from it so that we can adapt the program and make sure that we're leading towards the best possible program for the community in the end. I'm not sure that I actually got to every single question that you had in there. So I want to perhaps ask Bob or Robbie, you could supplement my answer there.
Yeah, and I'll just speak to a number of the questions that came up, which are all, there were a lot of good questions there concerned who is going to be participants and things like that, which we have not worked out yet. We have a program design phase that would immediately follow the approval, which would allow us to dive into what does the application look like and other questions like that would answer many of the questions that came up here. So Hank, I think, gave a good explanation of how this works in most places, but I do think that for many of the questions that came up, it is really a question of program design that we intend to do inclusively. One of the first steps we laid out was having an advisory group of residents and landlords and other housing professionals just advise on some of these questions about what kind of restrictions on landlords would make sense for this particular program. What would they agree to? So I think a lot of those are good questions. I just don't have firm answers to them right now. And honestly, we have to get into the program design phase of this before we can answer those fully. And Robbie, I think, could speak to the family focus arrangement. I would say, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say I'm happy to do so. Yeah, so as Bob noted earlier, there's been no firm commitment between both parties. We've toured the building with their staff and have identified a second floor office that can work well. But I think one of the ongoing conversations is whether we would be permanently staffing the office or whether it would function as sort of a temporary intake center on certain days where appointments are set up. And I think that could affect the scope of whether we're paying a permanent monthly rent or whether there's another type of arrangement that's figured out with the group. And so as Bob noted, I think that's also probably one of the first things we would shore up in the initial months of program design. And I think as part of that conversation, I would think, given that 8092 is one of the 3 census tracts that we're focusing on, I would think there would also be a conversation around how do we ensure that we have a sense of proximity in place in all of the census tracts that we intend to reach through the program.
Thank you. So Tina, did you have other comments, a statement that you wanted to make about this particular program, or was it about family focus?
Well, I just think that, when you go to a job, this is just for this project and any in the future. When you go to a job, it seems like that you put a resume out and a plan. And it seems like no bias against this program or any other ones that come up in front, but it looks like the committees are making no requirements, and this is some that you've already passed, of people knowing what they're going to do in advance of them getting money. So it seems like you would already know these are the landlords. I'm an affordable landlord. I know Robbie Marcus, we've talked many times before, but seems like you would know that I'm an affordable housing landlord. There's very few of me here in Evanston, and that you may have talked to them in advance of asking for money. And also, and then how many people, so Housing and Community Development Committee and all of the other committees are saying how it's important to be equal and fair to Black people or minority persons like myself. And you say you're going to do things in Census Tract 8092, which is normally considered a low income or mid-income neighborhood. And you all want to be fair, and you're doing this to help the community and minority people. Well, do you know even how many Black people still live in 8092 census tract, and how many Black landlords are still in 8092, and how many Black house ownership, and these are the people you're trying to target, low income, how many of us are still even in the neighborhood? The census tract is 13% Black people now here in Evanston, period. And the 5th ward has changed dramatically. And now they're saying we're building 35 new townhomes for $545,000. That is not minority persons buying this. And this ties into what I'm saying in this project as well as other projects. You do not even allow or require people coming to ask for this magnitude of money to say what they're going to do specific. They just say, oh, we're coming in and we're gonna do this, and not specific. These are very, very important questions. And no, your answer is not sufficient because you do not have a list or a business plan. When you go to the bank, you need a business plan. There's no plan for half of these projects, including this one. And I feel very upset that you all are passing money, and I don't know how you're gonna vote, but you're just passing money and pretending like you're gonna help landlords like myself, and it's not true. And you've pushed my program or what you pretend you're gonna help with the landlord program. You haven't even, that page 125, you said one little line about the landlord program, but you're gonna pass $1 million. Just outrageous, and that people are allowed to go with no plan, and that you're gonna vote on $1 million. Just very inappropriate.
Okay. So, committee, are we ready for a motion?
I mean, I think after that comment, especially because we allowed it to persist for quite a while, I think it, EDC, and I think a response is required about what was submitted, what plan was submitted. I know we discussed it at the last ACDC meeting, so if we can get a quick response about what plan.
Well, yeah, I would like to just say this program is not without a concrete operating model and business plan behind it. This is something that Elevate has made successful in multiple markets. It is a very well planned out and thought out business model of how to maximize the benefits to landlords, local landlords who want to preserve the affordability of their units and for their community, optimizing for resident and tenant benefits to ensure that we're reducing utility burdens, and absolutely maximizing the number of minority and women-owned contractors who receive the business that's created from these programs. So I think that the comments that were made are coming from a very real place of concern about not knowing whether to trust what we're doing is actually benefiting the community. But I can assure you that every bit of this program is meant to address the problems that have persisted in many communities, and is attempting to ensure that we maximize the outcomes and the benefits to the community, and that the money is going to those who are trying to do the right things in those communities and are feeling the most burden from the lack of efficient housing. So I'm very, I do hope we can show this through the implementation of this program, that we are trying to serve landlords like Tina, who are trying to do the right thing and preserve affordable housing in her community.
Thank you. Kara, you have a comment?
Yes, thank you so much. I wanted to also share, for the benefit of our listeners this evening, a little bit of history on this proposal. Back in 2018, the City of Evanston's Office of Sustainability received a grant to start to research this type of project, and that was through the Partners for Places program. So that was $250,000 that the city leveraged in order to do the initial research for this one-stop shop model. And we've worked with these partners for several years now. I think a lot of the attention that this really exciting project should have gotten was overshadowed by COVID. And so I do want to remind this group that we did present that final research that was done back, I believe, in November of last year. And there were also many meetings with the Environment Board, with the Utilities Commission, where all of this initial research was discussed. So this isn't, we could have leaned into that a bit more, perhaps in the memo that was provided to give some of that history, but this is not a new project by any means. I just wanted to share that.
Thank you. Sarah.
I also wanted to point out that we don't expect this will be the last that the committee will hear about this project, that if approved and we get this moving, we will be coming back to the committee to say what is being done, and with answers to all these sorts of questions after we've done the market work or in-market work and been able to draw those conclusions. I think that's a very important part of the design. There is an engagement, another level of engagement, as was pointed out. There was a level of engagement with the Partners for Places grant, and this will continue on that, because let's face it, things have been changing. We had our first 100-degree summer solstice, which, I mean, it really shows how much everything is changing. And we also realize that there have been different strains and different impacts to our landlords and our lower income home buyers, that homeowners, that all have to be taken into consideration.
Yeah, great. And Bob?
This is really a reinforcement of Kara and Sarah's point here, that this was a process that involved focus groups, involved analytics, involved policy research, and involved a couple of home assessments that we did to confirm that this kind of one-stop shop assessment would work and point out a number of different things that could happen in these homes. So it is a full concept. I think what we haven't done is identify participants, is develop exactly the kind of restrictions that would be placed on landlords, which is what we need to do immediately. But this is not a novel concept that is just being presented tonight. It's something that we've been working on with the city for about 3 years. So I feel like this is the culmination of a long process. And yet we don't have every answer, but we have put a lot of thought with the city into how to make this both climate mitigation, climate resilient, and equity focused, which we think are all important. So thank you.
Yep, thank you. Ugo.
Very quickly, just wanted to add also that with the recipients of these funds, there'll be some contractual obligations that will be followed up by this committee as well. We have overseen capacities also within the committee to make sure that these funds are used properly and according to what it's being approved here. Just to give a little bit of more of an answer to Tina.
Yeah, great, thank you. And Councilmember Burns.
Just for the sake of those listening, could you also speak to how the budget will be used, how the money will be used, the breakdown of the budget, how much towards kind of the administrative part of this, how much will go directly to the home improvements?
Councilmember Burns, I'm looking at the time here, and I'd really like us to
That's fine, but this is critical. So if we can get an quick answer to that. Because I think the idea every time we approve something is that somehow organizations are finding ways to enrich themselves. And so let's just speak directly to how I think this program is set up, but every program is set up that I've seen at least, where it's you pay for staff and then everything else goes to improvement. So I just want to clear the air to make sure that there's no part of these funds that are going to bonuses and enriching any individuals or organizations.
Okay, so we have the budget now on our screen.
Yeah, the majority of the funding I will speak to more than 2/3 of it goes to specific home improvements. So it does go to capital improvements to help homeowners is the majority of it.
Thank you.
Okay, now I really, really want a motion here so we can move on to our other big item. Somebody who can actually vote on it.
I move that we recommended to council to provide $1 million funding for the Evanston one-stop housing retrofit pilot program.
Second.
Great, excellent. Okay, we have a motion and a second, and a roll call, please.
Councilmember Newsma.
Recusing myself.
Oh, I'm sorry. Councilmember Burns.
Aye.
Councilmember Reed.
Aye.
Joanne Salome.
Aye.
Monica Bobo.
Aye.
Hugo Rodriguez.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Great, okay, thank you. And thank you very much, all of you, for attending our meeting and providing more really helpful information. And we look forward to hearing more from you in the future.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, now we are on to our next item, which is the request for $3 million in ARPA funds for the Family Focus Evanston Center revitalization. And Marian, we have some comments.
Yes, we have quite a bit of comments. I will be calling on people. The first person that signed up for comments by phone is Amelia Evans.
Okay, and can I encourage our speakers to really be brief, because we're never going to get out of here tonight.
Hi, how are you? I'm Amelia Evans. I am a parent educator at Family Focus Evanston. I started in April. Even though I am new to the company, I could tell how just this organization means so much to the community. Like even the families that I work with, they truly enjoy our programs and the other programs that is offered within the building. I would say we do need updates because the restrooms are terrible. One of the stalls is just not working. So it's only 2 stalls in there for the children to use. And then also we need water in the sinks because only one of the sinks have hot water. The other 2 of them is like just cold. So we just need improvements in the building. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Vivian Anderson.
Good afternoon or good evening. I'm Vivian Anderson, and I'm a resident of Evanston for 45 years. I've lived in the 5th Ward for 25 years. Mrs. Dolores Holm was the director and a great lady, and Miss Joanne Avery, a moderator. My children attended Family Focus at this time, and Family Focus has been a great asset to me and my family and friends, as well as the community. My children attended Family Focus after school program. My grandchildren attended the early childhood daycare, and my oldest grandchildren attended the after school program as well. They received their homework from volunteers that come from Northwestern University. They did a variety of activities, sports, and they wrote and they written poetry. We had performance in our auditorium that was written by the children. and grandparents, and with Mrs. Beth Jacobs, that's our writer, the instructor. And lots of the program and many other activities, summer program, camp, teaching the kids how to garden and cook and food with Mrs. Q, the chef, and also sharing the vegetables with the community. We also provided food and clothing to the community, sharing information about what's available in Evanston that can help the community. And I'm a grandparent raising grandchildren also. And we have written books, and they're all on Amazon. And Family Focus continue to help many families in the community. And we are all asking you all, the council board, to vote to renovate and to help the Family Focus to regain and be rebuilt in the 5th Ward. And we can also help others and the next generation of children to come and serve the community. Thank you all. And one more thing, my daughters them also, as I said, attended there, which was great. And now I have a registered nurse with her bachelor's degree. And also my baby girl, she's a tech, a pharmacy tech. So this program and being there Family Focus, it will be great if you all can and will help us renovate the place for others to come. Thank you all very much.
Great, thank you.
Now that was fast, right?
Thank you. Next, we have Robin Robinson.
Hello. Greetings to the Housing Economic Development Committee. My name is Robin Robinson, and I am an Evastonian, born and raised on the west side of Evanston and lived there for the majority of my life. I'm here tonight on behalf of the Family Focused Community Center, a landmark historic building positioned in our 5th Ward where I grew up at. My first recollection of the Family Focus Center goes all the way back to when my daughter was attending some of the after-school programs in the drop-in center there. She is now 40 years young with a son, niece, and nephew that continue to utilize the building for after-school programs and summer camp. I accredit Family Focus with playing a major role in providing my daughter and her friends and many other children in our community with a safe haven for them to gather. Prior to that, I remember that building being the home of our then and only to date 5th Ward Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Elementary School. Because of many years of wear and tear, this staple in our community is in dire need of a complete overhauling. There are leaky roofs, missing ceiling tiles, a gym with tape along the walls. Yes, you heard correctly, tape. The bathrooms are extremely outdated with stalls that do not lock, providing our little girls and ladies with no means of using restrooms in complete privacy. An auditorium that is hardly used due to being extremely outdated. The building also lacks adequate drinking fountains, leaving myself and other parents responsible for having to purchase drinking water for our children when they attend the after-school and/or summer camp programs. I am the voice of our melting pot of youth throughout the entire Evanston community, which includes many of my grandchildren whom benefit from the many services offered here at Family Focus. The voice of a 12-step fellowship group that once rented space there to hold our weekly meetings, yet because of the building's conditions, we're no longer able to. And last but far from least, the voice of the Family Focus grandparent group, which is also directed by Mrs. Joanne Avery. Our grandparent group has been subject to meeting via Zoom, not only because of the pandemic, but largely due to the outdated conditions of the building. So I come before you tonight not to beg, but to ask that you find it in your hearts to do right by our community. If there ever was a building deserving of financial assistance and support, it is the Family Focused Community Center, hands down. Thank you so very much for letting me share.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Whitney Norris.
Good evening. Again, I'm Whitney Norris, and I will just echo a lot of the things that a lot of our community has shared. I'm a parent educator for the Prevention Initiative program at Family Focus Evanston. I currently work with families with children from birth to age 3. So I've definitely seen the impact our center has made on our community, our families, whether it be through hosting play groups at our center or parent meetings. I strongly feel our center deserves the support to improve our facility so that we can continue the quality services that we provide in Evanston. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. That should be the end of the people that wanted to speak regarding family focus by phone or video. We did get 2 written comments that were after the packet was sent. So Rebecca Mendoza and Kathy Tate Bradish both wrote in favor of family focus and ARPA funding for family focus. So I wanted to mention that. As far as spoken comment, that is it for family focus.
Okay, great. Thank you. Councilmember Burns.
I was going to say Joanne Avery, program manager at Family Focus, as well as a youth member of Family Focus, Ariel, I believe is her name, wanted to say some comments earlier. They sent me a text. I don't know if they're still on.
If they could raise their hand, because I would need to find them, and some people are not, I didn't provide full names, so I can't locate them. Okay.
Okay, can you guys,
Yes.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Ariel Welcome. I've been with Miss Joanne since 2nd grade through 5th grade. And then I went down to Miss Debbie's for 6th and 8th grade. And now I'm currently working as a camp counselor with Miss Joanne. I would say for like the work on the building, it would be like for the bathrooms, because it's like for the handicap stall, there's no stall, and sometimes some people would like to use that, but a person will have to stand in front of the stall so they can use it. And also another thing is the workers, because for Miss Joanne and Miss Debbie, they barely have any workers to help with the kids, and I feel like it will be more positive and more respectful for some people or some students from ETHS or Northwestern or Loyola to come in and help them with all the kids that they have. And yeah.
Great. Okay, thank you.
We have Rose Johnson.
Good evening. I wasn't going to say anything, but I have to endorse everything that the people have said about family focus this evening. And I know Sarah knows how old I am, and I should have been retired a long time ago. But working with family focus over the past 15 years, I've just seen the devotion. Joanne Avery is the epitome of teacher. And if anybody ever needs to know the definition, just tell them to come take a look at her. The building, we all know, is in dire straits. But thank goodness, it's a new organization, Family Focus overall. The downtown people, the board, everything, and now I'm a member of the board, so I'm talking about myself too. But we have a whole new relationship with downtown. They have a whole different attitude than the old regime. And we're working toward, there's a plan, and you've seen it because we had to present all these things to you. Someone did, not me, thank goodness. But I'm endorsing people like Helen Hari, who wanted to retire, did retire, but came back during COVID, even by Zoom, so that she could help out when we were in great need. I appreciate our alderman, Bobby Burns. I never knew he was such an enthusiastic and tireless worker. I mean, I had thoughts about it, but you know, he has proven to be living up to the hype that I've heard about him. So we do need the money. Some of the work has already been started, and Family Focus Board, I'm the auxiliary president also, so that's a different thing. We're all working to try to raise funds to assist in renewing this treasure. So thank you, and I won't keep you any longer. I could talk for a long time, you know that. But good night, and thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have Joanne Avery.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep, we can.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for those kind words, Ms. Johnson and everyone else that spoke. I want you to know, I started at Family Focus in 1982 when that building was totally messed up. It took our youth to clean that building up because it was vacant for years and years and years. Right now, everyone talks about the bathroom. That's an essential thing. And we can't drink water from a water fountain. That's an essential thing. My parents have to constantly buy water. Water fountains are not working. Bathroom stalls, I know you keep hearing about the bathrooms, but that's so important, especially to the girls. And there's so much other things that we need. It's a shame that we can't use the auditorium because the chairs are falling apart. As a staff person, I fell out of one of those chairs because they were weak. So this, I don't know, I just hope and pray that you all really vote on us having this renovation in our building. The new school is coming. Fleetwood had the renovation. What would it look like for our building not to be renovated amongst all the new things that are coming around us? And it's not fair that our kids don't have that. After school program is so important. These are latchkey kids that need to be somewhere safe. We pride ourselves on no graffiti on our walls because the community respects our building. There are no graffiti there, but inside there's a lot of things. Outdated books. Our library is outdated. The kids were just saying that today. When are we going to get books about our culture? They said that today. So I just, I pray every day and every night that you all make this decision to renovate our building. It badly needs it. That's an over 100-year-old building, and we need it. So it's not fair for our future generation. It's not fair to us as workers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Carlos Sutton.
Good evening. I've listened to the previous speakers and I just have a few comments briefly to make. Fifth Ward resident, landlord, small landlord. For those appearing at this meeting, most of you are not aware of the previous program that preceded this by Brenshaw, which was a disaster to our community and a boon for the developers. In all due respect, I am adamantly opposed to the programs identified this evening for consideration and approval. These are proposals that should be implemented, but not at the expense and the detriment of the current citizens of the Fifth Ward. The one-stop program, the Fifth Ward TIF, funding Family Focus, these are all admirable programs. And I like for them to be supported, but not to the effect that we have discussed on this meeting tonight. The grant to small landlords of $1 million to be provided from the Arpa Act. I know the 2 landlords in this town who will not be the 50 recipients in that distribution. After reviewing this agenda for consideration, I failed to understand why the comment had to be at the end before the voting and why there was no input in the chat. But that to me is to discourage public participation in these kinds of meetings. The Fifth Ward has had a disproportional burden of providing affordable housing to Evanston. The homes from the geography building program at ETH, affordable housing units for elderly, Cook County Affordable Housing, Habitat for Humanity. All of these programs are concentrated within 2 or 3 blocks of my house. And it doesn't seem that Evanston has any intent to provide this kind of housing in any other wards but the 2nd and the 5th. But zero assistance in these programs for small landlords in my situation. Are your programs intentionally tenant-oriented and small landlord oppositional to try to remove us from this community? I'm glad to see money available to assist Fifth Ward tenants and programs that assist families. But the priorities are developers and to organizations that have outside sources for revenue that I can't access. I agree with the warning that these programs will subsequently increase green gentrification. If I've misread your intent in these proposals that might be ratified tonight, I stand to be corrected. But after reading the 132-page proposal, I failed to identify any program getting all the way down to page 128 of 132 that would offer any kind of assistance to small landowners like me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And last we have Laneka Ross.
Hi, I was actually going to speak in regards to family focus. I am a former family focus kid and my children also went to family focus, and I do believe that the building is in dire need of renovations. And also just some new but old programming. When I started out in, I think, 3rd grade, and then I went through Miss Joanne's program, and she handpicked me to join the Evanston I Have a Dream program, which was an amazing program. The mentorship, just the tutoring, the experience with Alderman Peter Braithwaite and all of the AmeriCorps people was an amazing group. It taught us morals, values, skills, and a lot of the programs that Family Focus used to have, we don't have anymore. And that's why I think that so many of our children are so uneducated to a lot of things. I mean, the schools are teaching them some things, but Family Focus taught us a lot of things that were so detrimental to our life. Like they had a Beehive program, which was, a sexual health program that they had with Mr. Vince, and they had programs that taught us computer skills. Like the schools don't have this anymore, cursive writing. And I think that a lot of those programs should be implemented back into our community, because a lot of our kids, like my son, he's completely dumb when it comes to addressing an envelope. Like our kids don't have the things and the skills that we used to have, because there are so many programs that don't focus on these things. And for Family Focus to be the only community center in Evanston that I know of that does not charge thousands of dollars to families who cannot afford. Like I'm a single parent who have a 1-income household. There's no way that I can afford to pay almost $1,000 to put my kid into a camp in the summertime, $1,000 a month, not just for the entire summer, but $1,000 a month. And Family Focus is one of those places who continue to be so affordable with themselves needing so much help, and they still find a way to, accommodate all of us parents. And so I think that it would be amazing for this building to get everything that it's looking for, because the people and the dedication that they've, just outpoured into the community is just unmatched. No one can compare. any program in the city, I don't think that they can ever compete with Family Focus. And that's pretty much it for me.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. And that is the end of public comment for Family Focus.
Okay, so now committee discussion, questions.
Well, I
thoughts?
believe we have a slide and presentation.
Oh, okay.
Anna, were you able to promote?
Yes, I'm promoting.
I will be sharing my screen then.
If you see the promote to panelists message, please accept.
And I believe Councilmember Reed has his hand raised. Chair Revelle, I know you can't see the screen and you're on mute.
Yeah, I do see that. I didn't know whether we should have the presentation first.
Oh, right, sure.
Okay.
Good evening, Chair Revelle and committee members. Good to see you. I will just, we wanted to come back, first of all, and thank you for inviting us back to share a little bit more information. We wanted to answer some outstanding questions and put a finer point on some of what we discussed when we were here with you last month. Since we met, we have had a meeting with the Evanston Public Library with the board and have received a letter of interest to explore the Evanston Public Library becoming an anchor tenant in the Family Focus Center as part of phase 2. I do want to acknowledge the comments that you heard from team members of Family Focus, from our Rose Johnson, our board member, some of our tenants and others. And I just want to underscore the sense of urgency that you hear from those individuals. Our center, as we know, is a staple in the community and of critical import to specifically the African-American community. The organization has continued its commitment to the 5th Ward by operating several programs out of that center, and of course, having tenants who do the same as far as their program operation. And the building needs a lot of work, right? And so with the merger with Chicago Child Care Society, this is a priority for our organization. I do want to share, Dottie Johnson, our CFO, will go into the budget and share a little bit more detail about the updated budget. But I do also want to share that we have submitted a project activity timeline where you'll see some detail around just some of the pre-development work that we are planning, and what we've found in our quick research since we last met with you is that the fact that the building itself is registered as a historical landmark actually gives us more opportunity to find additional funding that is additive to the matrix that you saw. We did a little bit of research just to see what could be possible as far as additional funding that could support phase 2. Again, Dottie will talk a little bit more about the details in the budget and some of the construction for phase 2. But in our research, we found that there are quite a few federal opportunities and of course some state opportunities that we could go after, and just was pleasantly surprised to see that there are more that we wouldn't have been able to attract if we were not on the registration as a landmark. So that actually opens up the door to a lot of additional opportunities. I think it's also important to note that with the work that has been done, so the building has received 2 assessments in the last decade, and of course the last one was last year in 2021. And after we have committed to the building and its renovation, we're continuing to learn more about the needs of the center. So having this program manager, which is in the budget for phase 1, will be critically important as we continue to uncover some of the needs. And in addition to that, you'll see some detail around our planned capital campaign, so that we're adding about $2 million to the investment that, if approved, this committee will add to this committee's investment into the center. And with that, I will turn it over to Dottie to just give a little bit of detail around the budget and put some finer points on some of the questions that we got when we were here with you last.
Thank you, Dara, and thank you, committee, for hearing us again this evening. I'll try to be brief. The budget that we presented to you in our packet today is an increased budget. It went to $12.4 million from original budget of just over $11 million. The primary reason for that is that you asked us for details on what this phase 2 would look like in construction. So I went back and consulted the FCOP group, who was initially, or several years ago, looking at acquiring the building from Family Focus. And they had a detailed assessment completed at that time. This was back in 2018. When I went through that assessment, I learned that the square footage that we were operating off of was actually underreported on the IFF report. They reported square footage of the building at 51,000 square feet, and that's what we were basing this budget off of for the construction build out, which is going to primarily happen in the second phase of this proposal. The actual square footage is almost 59,000, 58,792. That's a 15% increase in square footage, which then led to a 12% increase in the cost for construction and the related contingency and soft costs to that in phase 2 of that project. Now, I opted not to send you the 20+ pages of detailed cost estimates. I didn't think that would be relevant for our conversation today, but I did try to then group it by floor of the costs that were being estimated from that project. That I just want to get the group that did this. It was the U.S. Building Efficiency Solutions group that did that report in 2018. So on the first floor, we've got a square footage of 17,415, and we're looking at really renovating and uplifting the spaces that we have for our infant toddler rooms on that floor. They have to remain on the first floor because of code licensing requirements through the state, as well as redesigning the existing space for our prospective lead tenant, which we hope will be the Evanston Public Library. And we're looking at an open floor space design for that. So that will be literally gutting the other spaces outside of the infant toddler rooms to create the library space that the library is seeking to build in the 5th ward. On the second floor, we're looking at how we can maximize that space for the current tenant mix, as well as our own use for our program. So again, looking to gut that building, renovate it, and make it more user-friendly, and thinking of and how we can expand and group like services together for users who will be coming into the building. There's 18,000, just under 18,500 square feet on the second floor. And the third floor then has what we would look to develop a business incubator space, office spaces for some of our small businesses that are currently leasing and are current tenants, as well, and also conference rooms that can be used by the community for some of the meetings that you heard described that has happened in the past, that we want to be able to have that presence again for a community group. And then in our basement, which is a large area for us, it's over 15,000 square feet. We have a commercial kitchen. We want to uplift that and be able to expand the programming that is being done out of that right now. We also have before or after school programming happening. We would expand that to include both before and after school activities, and then also improve upon the meeting room space that we have there. And we also have our clothing giveaway down there, the clothing closet, and we have a small food pantry that gives away food on a weekly basis. So we would be looking to improve all those areas and being able to expand that. That was the primary, the changes that we made in the budget. The first phase still pretty much remains the same. You heard, bathrooms are a primary consideration. That is the number one thing that we are going to be looking to take care of in the building first when we get the project manager hired and be able to start doing project planning in earnest. But that is our first goal for that. So that's why it was put into the first phase. This is a preliminary budget on this construction, understand, because I'm basing it off of costs that I've adjusted for inflation, but we know that the current cost, the value of the dollar is not going as far as it did years ago. And it is, something that will be fine-tuned once we have the project planner and be able to get our construction management team and the architect involved with this. So know that these are preliminary numbers, but we feel that they are a reasonable cost estimate of what it would take based off of both the IFF report and the report that was done by FCOM. Did I miss anything? I think I've covered the primary points. Oh, I also wanted to address, we've already invested money. We realized that when we came into the building that there was some work that needed to be done. So this year alone, we've invested nearly $100,000 in improvements in spaces where we needed to do that, including repairing boilers. We have had plumbers out there fixing toilets and sinks and everything you heard about. Some of that's already starting to be addressed because we realized when we went through the building that there were some things that we needed to do right away. And so we are making the changes that we can. Unfortunately, our dollars are limited. Most of our work goes for the social services that we're providing for the community. So while I would love to be able to fund this all through our current budget, that's just not possible for an organization that is heavily dependent upon government funding to provide the needed services. And I think you heard about how the need for the services that we're providing in the community.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I see Councilmember Nusma's hand up, but Councilmember Reed, you had your hand up first. Are you still, which one of you is going to go first?
Councilmember Reed was first.
Yeah, I'll just, thank you, Councilmember Nusma. I just wanted to state that I support this project. I think Family Focus is an asset to the community. I think the project is, mostly reasonable with the ask, and so I'm fully supportive and ready to move forward with this project.
Okay. Could we just have the screen so I can see everybody? Thanks. Okay, Councilmember Nusma.
Thank you, Chair Revelle. I too am generally supportive of this project and looking forward to moving this forward. I want to address a couple areas. I don't want to say of concern, but just because I'm sure I'll be satisfied here. But I am wondering, given the fact that we are going to have a brand new school in very close proximity to this building, if you anticipate that the mission or programming of Family Focus will change as the new school is unveiled.
Thank you for your question, Councilmember Nusma. We don't anticipate that our mission will change. Our service delivery model will not change. Our core businesses of early childhood education, youth development, family support, including immigration services, will not change. We will explore, and we're very open to exploring how our work and the work of our tenants can be supportive of the new school, of the students in the school, the family support that we provide, the after school care that Dottie talked about, that you heard Ms. Joanne and her student Ariel talk about, will continue. We also know that we should anticipate the increased need for those services. So while our mission will not change, we're trying to figure out what that means as far as us being a good partner and the potential of increased need for those services, and are committed to working very closely with Dr. Horton and the professionals at District 65 on what that means to be a good partner.
Thanks. Yeah, we're going to have quite the little campus there with Family Focus, the new school. We've got Fleetwood Jourdain, and Council Member Burns and I touched on this topic at the combined meeting of the school districts and city council members last month. So I'd love to look for ways that we can collaborate between the three organizations, D65, the city, Family Focus, not only on the programming and go about that in a strategic manner. So we're meeting all the needs of the community in an effective way where we're operating collaboratively, rather than stepping on toes. But also I have to imagine there's ways that we can collaborate on the physical construction side of the project as well. I don't know what those are off the top of my head, but if you guys are doing a renovation and there's a brand new school building being built around the same time, there's got to be ways we could get some collaboration and save some money. One of those ways, avenues of potential collaboration might be related to climate action, resiliency, and environmental justice. So if you could take a few minutes to talk about what you have in mind for your building in terms of energy efficiency, renewable energy, bringing the building up to 21st century energy standards, and maybe getting some solar panels on the roof.
Well, I know we've at least discussed solar panels and how first of all, what materials we can use that would be greener than the materials used in our current building. The idea of solar panels, the idea of a reduced carbon footprint is something that we've talked about. Dottie may have more specifics about ideas, but again, that's a path that we would think through with our project manager and developer, and in partnership with District 65. I think that is another path of potential partnership with the district.
I'm not sure. Go ahead, Ms. Johnson.
No, go ahead. I was just going to say that we are just starting to explore a lot of those options. I definitely want to make sure that we're looking at the highest level of energy efficiency that we can afford to put in that building and be able to reduce the carbon footprint. That's something that's very close to my heart, as is how we protect the environment. And again, until we have that project manager in place, we haven't really started exploring all those options and how we can make that happen. But we will be working, in fact, District 65 staff has already offered to consult with us on some of the building planning and the renovation work that we need to do, and be a resource to us as well. So we're excited to be able to get that in place once we have our project manager in place.
Fantastic. I'm not sure if Sustainability Manager Kara Pratt is still on the Zoom here. I don't see her name in the on the list here, but we are looking into getting some solar panels on Robert Crown in a way that doesn't cost the city any money up front. So I'd love to be able to share that information with you guys, and maybe you can learn, take away some lessons learned from our experience.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, great idea. Yeah.
Thanks. That's all I have.
Okay. Other committee members, comments, questions? Marion, do you want to show our?
Yeah, I have one question about whether the organization can speak to how our program is going to continue during renovation.
So we are working on a plan right now of how we can relocate our our programs within the building and doing a phased-in approach for the construction phase so that we are not disrupting the entire building. We can't afford that, not to have programs. We can't afford not to be there for our clients, the children. So that is something that we're taking very seriously, and not only with our programs, but our other tenants. We want to make sure that we are being as least disruptive as possible and try to focus on just certain areas, get that renovated, and then move that programs into that space and then start working on the next phase. So it's looking at it as a phased-in approach for that. The early work that we're doing with the bathrooms and stuff, fortunately, most of that can be done without any disruption to anybody in the space that they're working in or where services are being provided right now.
Thank you.
Good question, though.
Yeah.
Can you hear me correctly?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So this is our family focused scoring matrix. As you can see, we have overall very high scores. Feasibility came in at 4.5 and 36 out of 40. Capacity, 4.4 out of 5 and 35 out of 40. And budget came in at 4 out of 5 and 32 out of 40. And return on investment, inequities, addressing inequities and inequality, and community support all had full scores at 5 out of 5 and 40 out of 40 total, bringing us to the total score out of 240 coming in at 223, and the total average score is 4.65. We also received more than 50 input from residents, and there were some overall themes, including community impact, longevity, a safe place for children, and lowering community violence, programs being for the whole family from babies to grandparents, a place to empower strong, nurturing families, and a place where education is available. And the most talked about theme was that family focus is a hub for the Fifth Ward services and support.
Councilmember Burns.
Yeah, just to one of Councilmember Newsom's questions about collaboration, and I've talked to some of my colleagues about this in city staff. So we've convened really two groups to make sure that we're operationalizing collaboration. One is kind of named our Foster Campus Model Group, which involves District 65 representatives, City of Evanston, Family Focus, and STEM School Evanston, and many others. And then also recently, the city staff, pretty much every director, head, as well as some managers, have started to meet with District 65 to talk about this campus model more directly, and we'll be pulling Dara and her team in on those discussions. So there is not an absence of talks around collaboration, detailed conversations around collaboration with this, not just the Family Focus project, but everything happening around this area, from the school to Fleetwood to Family Focus. We understand this is important. This is a time where we're focusing a lot of investment in the area, and where there's opportunities to collaborate, to cut costs, we will find them. The other thing I want to say is that, I think I heard during a previous meeting, people saying, oh yeah, Family Focus is, one of the organizations in the Fifth Ward. I want to make this clear. Family Focus is the only social service hub in the Fifth Ward, right? So if you've seen the Evanston E-Plan, and you keep seeing 8092 pop up when they talked about pretty much every health and income related disparity in the city of Evanston, it exists primarily and directly in the 8092 census tract that is in the Fifth Ward. And this is the only social service hub in the Fifth Ward. I cannot stress that enough. Within that hub, there are many organizational partners, YMCA and many others, but this is the place where it happens. If you want to make a difference in the Fifth Ward, right, in 8092 Census Tract, this is the way to make a direct impact. Yes, we have Fleetwood and they do a great job. The school is coming, but this is the only thing that has really held it down over the decades that it's been here. So I just can't stress that enough. And if you really looked at what ARPA was meant primarily for communities that have been impacted before COVID. It wasn't primarily for economic things happening downtown. It was to make an impact in neighborhoods such as this. And I don't want us to lose sight of that because of previous grant allocations that we've made with ARPA funds. This is the work. This is why ARPA exists. And I can't stress that enough. Thank you.
Thank you. Other committee members, comments or questions?
I just think it's a great project, and it's certainly, you can't do without family focus. I guess a little concern, which we wouldn't be involved in it, but I've been reading about how the cost of different projects, maybe a lot bigger projects, is just going up, doubling and tripling, that communities are, you know, whether it's road projects or things, are pulling back and postponing things. So hopefully inflation will come down and we're going to get more tradesmen, which is part of the problem. But I hope that they will have a strong private fundraising program.
Right. Yeah. Good point. Yeah. Well, this evening we certainly have heard loud and clear from the community about how unbelievably valuable family focus is and has been for generations, and also we've heard dramatically about how greatly in need the building is of, you know, just basic repairs, let alone improvements that will really support the programming there. So, I mean, it's really a highly deserving project for our funds, I think. So, yes, Councilmember Newsome.
Also, just I noticed that there's $1 million set aside for an operational endowment. Can you explain that a little bit? It sounds like probably a really good idea.
Certainly. The operation endowment is meant to help us generate dollars to help finance the ongoing building maintenance needs on an annual basis. So with $1 million, conservatively speaking, we should be able to raise at least $50,000 annually that would help cover those ongoing maintenance needs that you need to make sure that those systems continue to operate and are there for the long term.
So the $1 million stays invested and you don't dip into the capital. You work off of the investment returns.
Exactly.
Great, thanks.
So committee, are we ready for a motion or are there more questions?
I move approval.
Okay.
I will second.
Okay. Then I think we should have a roll call.
Councilmember Newsome.
Aye.
Councilmember Burns.
Aye.
Councilmember Reed.
Aye.
Chair Revelle.
Aye.
Joanne Salome.
Aye.
Kathy Feingold.
Aye.
Monica Bobo.
Aye.
Hugo Rodriguez.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
We'll see you at City Council.
Absolutely. Thank you,
Absolutely.
everybody. Have a
Okay.
good night.
Good night. Okay, so we have one more item on our agenda, which I'm assuming can be pretty quick for us, and that is voting on the updated draft of the 2022 action plan that are incorporating the entitlement grant amounts that we've finally been given from the federal government. So here's a slide that summarizes all that.
Right, and this slide is actually very similar to the slide we provided last month. It simply summarized that we got slightly different amounts for the grants, but that while there is a little bit of a difference with the CDBG grant, program income was actually higher. So the overall difference in funding for the total is not actually really impactful. It's very small. So what we can show you is how that affected the actual allocation by goals. And I just need to be able to share my screen again. I'm not sure if you see my screen right now with the spreadsheet.
We do, but if you could enlarge it a little bit,
yeah,
great.
Because I'm sure it's very, very small because I'm working on a bigger screen. How is it now?
Yeah, that's better.
Better, but bigger would be better.
Yes. It's getting there. All right, thank you.
Okay. So essentially what's happening with the different allocation for the affordable housing goal, we're showing a much higher percentage of funding, 32% versus the 29% you had approved on estimates. This is coming from the fact that there's program income for CDBG that's increased the amount, and then home grant actually came in higher. So that's increasing the amount for this goal. There is very little change for the homelessness goal, but home again is higher. So there's a little bit more money there. ESG is slightly lower, but overall it provides a higher total for the homelessness goal. For livable community, it's important to remember that what we're looking at is the funding using 2022 CDBG funding. While on paper, we are showing a decrease in funding for livable communities from 30% to 27%. What we do know is there's going to be rollover funding from 2021 that was not expended because projects came in much cheaper. So the funding is actually probably going to be quite a bit higher total for the projects that we had discussed. And that's allowed us to reduce the funding of actual 2022 CDBG, since this spreadsheet is only mentioning 2022. As far as public services, it's a flat number, so it's reduced a little bit, but very minimal. It's a flat percentage of the grant. And admin is the same. So it's a flat percentage, and it varies. It's gone down a little bit, but not anything significant. So that's essentially the high level of how the final grant amounts have impacted allocation by goals compared to what you had initially approved. Next month, what we plan on presenting you is where we're at with the livable community projects, the projects that are under livable community goal. So that's the alley paving, sidewalk projects, the picnic shelter. You had approved some funding late last year. We'll review that with the rollover funding that's now available and kind of provide you an update now that some of the bids have come up. And then we'll also discuss the nonprofit facilities application. We're looking to potentially open application for a nonprofit to do some improvements. There's no funding allocated here because we don't see a need to use 2022 CDBG. We think there is unexpended 2021 funding that we can look to use. And we will be reviewing that in more detail next month.
Okay.
And just one other note, next month, we are also going to be talking about adding in, we're going to have the NSP2 program income that's going to come over to CDBG. And also we will come to in this whole discussion with a proposal to reallocate about $129,000 of 2021 administration funding that wasn't used in 2021 because we had all the other CDBG CV admin money in addition to our regular grants, and that is enough of a change that it triggers a substantial amendment to our 2021 action plan. So we have to do that as a substantial amendment, and so we're going to roll that and the NSP2 program income coming in as into one amendment, because otherwise we're going to be coming back to you every 5 minutes with an amendment for a little bit of money, and it's going to drive us all crazy.
Thank you. Okay. So committee, any questions about this adjustment? Then are we ready for a motion? This is a motion. There'll be a motion to recommend to City Council. Yep.
Second.
What? Who made that motion?
Feingold was first, and Councilmember Reed was second.
Great, excellent. Okay.
Okay. Councilmember Newsman.
Aye.
Councilmember Burns.
Aye.
Councilmember Reed.
Aye.
Chair Revelle.
Aye.
Joanne Salome.
Aye.
Kathy Feingold.
Aye.
Monica Bobo.
Aye.
Hugo Rodriguez.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Great. Okay. Thank you. Well, thank you, everyone. That was a lot of hard work tonight with those big projects to consider and lots of public comment. I appreciate everybody's participation and good listening, and it was well done. Marion, you have a...
Yes, I believe that we still have two public comment for a general comment. Just want to mention.
Okay. Who is that?
We have Brenda that raised her hand.
Okay, Brenda.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I had raised it during the time that you were talking about family focus, but it was toward the end, kind of, I couldn't get in. I just would be remiss not to mention that I've gone to family focus in the past, and when they had the computer courses there, and used the computers for a couple of times before they end that. It didn't get, I don't know if it was ending at the time that I went. I didn't get to use it too much, but I did go, and I took advantage of using a computer to do different things. And I also needed some important papers printed, and I didn't have a printer. Mine had broke, and I went over to the building, and I spoke with Miss Joanne and went in and saw how well things were going with her and some of the grandparents and the children that were there. And I also attended a couple of events with Mrs. Joanne and the Grandmothers Club. And I do hope that they will get the funding that they need, because I think it's wonderful that that program is going, and the grandmothers and the people that are raising these children that aren't theirs, but grandparents, and they aren't the parent. They really work well with them. And also I used the printing, they printed papers for me at one time. So it's the family focus in the program is really, really to the community, people in the community's advantage. And I've gone to that center. I was born in Evanston. I went to foster school, and everything that has gone on over there, I've always participated, or there have been services that were always to my advantage. And I'm a senior citizen now, and I can't go out the area, and I'm not driving. I do use public transportation, and I was going to the library for everything, but it has saved me a number of times to just walk out and walk down the street, across the street to the center. So I do hope that Ms. Joanne and Family Focus will get the funds that's needed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we have Ms. Payton that wanted to do some general comment.
Thank you. It's funny how the same people come back time and time again, call the program something else, and get money, such as the One Fit program and the One Stop program and ADUs, which they received money for before. Very interesting that the landlord program keeps getting pushed to a later date while people skate by with millions of dollars. Small to mid-sized landlords keep getting ignored while Arpa funds and other monies keep disappearing. Do any of these programs cover up the bullet holes in my wall, or cover up the fact that I continue to bleed money because I'm providing affordable housing? There's always some kind of restriction, like I have to do a rent freeze, or which has already been had by our eviction moratorium, or rents below fair market value, which I provide all the time. I don't see that restaurants are made to provide soup kitchens when they receive grant money. They just receive grant money and they go about their business and spend it on what they want to. Black Lives Matter, and not just to be used as a statistic or a benefit for your programs. Page 125, one small line about helping the small landlord when it was promised by several aldermen that the program was coming. When will that be? Next year or maybe the year after? Good night.
Thank you. So and that's it, is it, Marion? Yep, okay, all right. Well then, our next meeting is July 19th, and we finished all the business for this evening. So thank you all very much. We're adjourned, and
good night.
See you.
Thank you.
See you
Good
next
night, everyone. Thank you.
Good
Good
night.
night. Thank you.
Good night.